So we just go? Yeah.
Just go, let it flow organically. I guess so.
Well, first of all, thanks for being here. I'm gonna charge right in. I'm very curious, as in what motivates you to create art. So I know for myself how I can create meaning in my life. But what can you tell me about your motivation to create art within the context of life, meaning? What's your drive? Francis?
Most of the time is it. Ik ben heel erg aan het denken over dit is oké.
Nu wel?
Ja.
Hoe minder,
Minder hoe beter.
ja, want
Ja.
ik probeerde die audio moet wel goed zijn. Want video, dat komt wel.
bij geregeld.
Maar goed, we willen niemand zeggen om stil te zijn.
Ja.
It's your show.
Oké, pertama misschien kan ik gewoon de volgende vragen even en dan kunnen jullie even laten marineren.
Oh, is goed, joh.
Ja, die kan ik wel makkelijk, maar ik ging niet antwoord geven
Nee,
omdat
precies.
ik zit te denken aan,
Ja.
is dit wel...
Papi, hoe grita de Mike? Wakker was
Ja, hoe is het nou? Ja.
We moeten harder praten.
Ja.
Nee, but my answer is easy, man. Not easy, not, but what motivates me to make art is to me even the same as what you're trying to do with your own life, and to understand what I'm doing with my life, and then. So my art is most of the time in the same rails. So I have questions about life, and I just translate them in art, just like someone would write something that they don't understand. Or sometimes is it questions, sometimes is it something I want to say badly. You know, sometimes you want to scream something from the roof to the world, like please let me be.
To express yourself.
Yeah, and then I express that the urge to say that becomes art then, and then again and again and again and again and again and again.
It's kind of a manifestation.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's for me is a kind of a voice.
Okay.
It's a way to say it,
Express it.
to express.
Yeah. How about you, Jeroen?
Yeah, so for me it's really the question of why you create art. It really aligns with also what is for you like the meaning in life. So it's pretty close to what you're saying as well. And so for me, what gives me energy and what I think is beautiful and interesting about life, as always for me, it's always to do with boundaries. So for me, if stuff gets interesting for me, if boundaries are bridged or boundaries are resolved. Mm-hmm. And what I mean with that is, for example, this could be in like discovering something new or creating something new that wasn't there, or also in trying to create new connections. So for example, connections with new people that weren't there before, or like connecting with the natural environment in new ways. So for me, the meaning of life, but also for me, the meaning of creating art is always trying to experiment with bridging such boundaries. And that's always what I look for in my art as well. So this could be like, I created technological installations that could help humans and nature communicate in new ways, for example. So bring them closer together, bridge boundaries, through technology. So that's what drives me. And this can be in anything. It can also be just in a new idea, or a new startup, a business idea, or a new art idea, or something that's beautiful that wasn't there before. Bridging boundaries. So that's what motivates me. Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
It's interesting you say that, because we had previous conversations also, and I was coming up with the idea. You call it the urge. You know, sometimes you don't know where it's coming from, but I call it the interface. So the interface is basically, like you say, connecting boundaries, something that is on the edge. So something that is in one domain and something is in another domain. Like your art is in one, let's say, dimension. Your art is like in a dimension, but somehow you find a way to connect it. I call that the interface. Well, not me calls it the interface, but if I would have to come up with a word for that, I would call it interface. And the definition, as I see it now, based on also what you guys are saying, is that you cannot talk about the things directly, what you see or what you feel. So it always has to go through something.
Always.
So you can see maybe an artwork also has a sort of interface between an artist and an audience.
Yeah. And you know, if I don't know if I understand what you're saying exactly, but for me it can be even kind of frustrating sometimes, because the thing it needs to go through, let's say the language, like that, a lot of the intention goes and go away in the trying to come to the other side. So you're trying to communicate. You sometimes you're crying, but in your language, your face expression or just the wrong words make that the other person don't receive the half of what you're saying. And then, fuck, man, this.
It's a frustration, right?
Yeah,
because you wanna.
man.
It's like, So I think, but I think it's also both ways. So when you say you go in nature and you connect, and that's the meaning of life, you connect things like that. I think nature also cannot communicate to us directly, even though we are part of it.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is almost like we are trying to come together, like, because even those who don't speak our language, like nature, is speaking, and it seems like it's calling for a kind of a harmony in between, like a song, like we are making a song together. And then, you know, like I'm thinking in music, because I know, like, in music there's several instruments and all are playing something else, but
You have harmony together.
Yeah, you have harmony together. And for me to be together with the nature, that's a thing, because I need to listen also, but he's not talking like this.
Cannot talk direct. So that's the interface. So it's like in philosophy, Kant used to say, like, the Ding an sich. That's like het ding an zich. How do you? Yeah, I don't know how to say that in English, but I think we are all, even if now we're trying to talk about maybe something like the same idea, but I fail to find the right words.
Yeah.
But this is also like what you're mentioning with music, like the totality. So language can only touch on certain aspect, can never cover the totality. But like in a musical piece, there's something more, like a totality, and that's also, I think, in an art piece, for example. So an art piece can be something that is sublime in the sense it's beyond language. There's so much in there. It's a sort of totality that you can't grab, and if you can't grab it, that's also where the most interesting art is. I think.
Yeah, I see it also like that. And the hope is then, for me, then, even though almost all my artwork is made with an intention, I hope that it surpasses the intention that I could say. So when I'm making it, I'm trying to be connected with the source, I call it, you know, for it to be a flower, what I make, but also with much more meanings, that another person can come and find answers
Yeah.
for
Which,
themselves.
which is not even my intention.
That's
New
interesting. That is the
You
interesting
know?
part, actually.
Yeah.
So you're showing something that you cannot see yourself, or you have an intention, but it's
Maybe my intention is just the motivation,
yeah.
just the motivation to make it. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but when it's here, I don't know what it's going to do
Yeah.
in the world. You
No.
know?
Yeah.
So then it gets new interpretations, but I even see this like in the creational act itself. So for example, if you have like, you create a painting, you never have it like 100% that you know this is gonna happen. Even when you start to paint, then stuff will happen. Like the material, it's an interaction
Yeah.
with the material beyond
Yeah.
your intention that will end up in some kind of end result that is also something that might surprise yourself in the end.
Yeah.
This resonates with me as a technology guy. I know so many instances, so many examples where people had to invent new language to program something they had as a vision. The language wasn't there yet. They had to invent the language to program it.
To be able to program it.
Yeah.
Ah,
Interesting.
Wow, man.
And then other people use that language to create other stuff. You know, so that's
It's the same thing.
it
it's
is.
the same thing.
It is. So, but this is like a very good segue. I'm gonna generalize a bit. So you both, Francis, you have a different approach to expressing your vision, right? Analog, digital. I'm generalizing. But what do you see for the future? Is there going to be more overlap of disciplines? I can imagine, there are going to be purists always. But me as a non-practitioner, I do have some thoughts and visions that I would really like to have made tangible.
Yeah.
How do you see the future for like yourself and like people like me?
Well, I think in this digital age, so that now see really rapid development of AI and stuff, etc. And indeed, you will see that you see tools now which you can use to create all sorts of images, etc. But in the end, I think the future is really about some of the directions you also touch on, about integrations, and that's also for me where it gets interesting, crossing boundaries again, between digital, for example, and the analog.
Yeah.
That's where really new stuff for me happens. And I also think, definitely, if that's not even already happening, due to artificial intelligence, and that you can create images with that, it will result in also like a reappreciation of what's really human-made art. So that's really about,
Putting in the work.
see where we are now
Yeah.
in this setting, like in a real setting
Yeah.
with all sorts of, you're sitting
Yeah.
here in the real art. And the stories behind that those will be aspects that will be really important.
Yeah.
So beyond the fake, beyond the virtual.
But do you think people
The story, you say.
Yeah.
But do you think people should be taught to see the difference?
How do you mean?
As in, I can see the difference because.
Taught in teach
in the technology, right? So
yeah.
sometimes I see a picture, I think that's a bit dodgy. I'm not sure if it's real.
Yeah.
But my mom couldn't see it.
No.
My mom
They
is
don't
like,
see
oh my
it
God.
either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I have an idea about it. I mean, to start with, this is my answer for your question. To start with, I was fighting between what's real and what's the artist and thing. But if I let it down and think about the future, I think that it's not going to matter if it's digital or or non-digital. I
Like
think,
analog,
Yeah,
like
I
tangible.
think the base of it is the originality of the thing. I mean, in a sense, I saw in my own progress that what I'm trying to do, like first in the first layer, I try to paint something, and then I can paint it, and then you're a painter, and then you have ideas that you express by painting things, and then after that, if you do that very good, you do that so good that people need what you're producing, so you need more people to help you produce more, because there is a lot of people who need what you're making, and
So scalability of it.
yes, and the thing goes on until I'm not even making shit. I'm just only thinking,
Interesting.
you know. So and then when it goes there, it let me think that it doesn't matter if I make it me, if I make it. It's about the originality of the thought, and it can be made in 1,000 ways.
Yeah.
It goes on what you say, the interface. It goes about if someone have a message and he bring it and the other can get it and become richer or so because of that. And for me, if I keep on fighting about you need to see if this is real or not, it's not about real. It's about the realness of my message. It's like saying close to yourself and try to explain that in a way that people understand nowadays. If it's digital, it's digital, you know, and I don't know what's coming after digital, you know, but I just need to talk in a language that you understand what I talk about, and I don't care if it's an AI or whatever it is, you know.
Maybe a chip in your head.
Yeah, you know.
I love that. You're not scared. So some people would say, you know, like in the office space,
Yeah.
technology space, they say your job is going to be replaced by AI. You know, even if you're like a heavy coder, invented your own language, AI can go over the top.
Yes, I think your job will be better by AI if the only thing you're doing is just making that.
Not true.
All right.
But I believe
But if
here-
you don't have your personal calling, if you don't have your personal
That's true. Yeah.
thing,
But it's also
Yeah.
this is an evolution also in creativity that I see. So in a some sort of sense, what you see happening, it's like creativity is changing from something which was really skill based, in the sense of like you have to be able to create a painting, to like this more sort of conceptual creativity.
Yeah.
Are you able to come up
Yeah.
with an interesting
Yeah, what the
story
fuck is
or
it
emotion
then?
that can
Yeah.
be the base, and then AI creates around it.
yeah.
So that's also a sort of like democratization of art in some kind of way. So everyone with a good idea or an interesting story
Yeah.
can start to create art.
For me, it's
And
also a
it's
realization
multiple
that's
sided.
happening. But first, I felt like, you know, this started happening a lot before AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, since the internet, this is happening. You know. Can you imagine the moment everyone could make a photo with all photographs were going to what the fuck? This is not photography. But the same thing kept on happening, and now even what the AI is capable of doing, even my image and whatever my voice and whatever I'm going to say is to mimic. But the source, what's the source?
was your
That's the
question, yeah.
point.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. Although I still have very much also an appreciation for like the physical. So there's some kind
I
of
do
like
have
an
a,
aura.
but I
or
don't
some
think
sort
that
of-
is going to fade away because that's
No, never.
because that's the purity of gold. If something is gold, it is gold.
Yeah.
You know.
So I can maybe think of a statue or a shape, do like a rapid prototyping, and get it to a craftsman and say, okay, build this for me.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
I cannot do that, but
But
the
there's a
craftsman does.
machine that can do it. I saw a machine
Yeah.
make a sculpture, and then Michelangelo the years of making a sculpture. So, you know, but still, if you have the machine and you have all the samples, then still all the samples is nothing if it's not coming from a source. Then you have decoration. And the wow effect will go down in a minute because when you make 1,000 of it, then what's the point?
It devaluates.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when you have only one,
Yeah,
you know, one
fuck.
of this, it has more value, right?
Yeah.
This is also a little bit paradox also with AI and technology. So AI makes everything really easy, but then so I can create a cool image, and everybody can do it, and suddenly there's 10,000s of those
It
images.
helps. I think it helps instead because it reveals what is real. It only reveals what's real. It's not. I don't think it's a problem.
But how do you mean?
But
What-
exactly, what do you mean? Like what?
Because if everything is copying, like this thing, this is a very good thing. I mix in my process of making art. I know that if someone at the top, whatever you make, a lot of people saw, and they will take like 10% of what you make and make their own thing. And you that know that, you see what they are copying, and you say, yeah, you copy my thing. You feel it. But in a minute, what is going to happen right now is the realization that will come to me, that's on supposed top, that is not my thing either. Because I'm copying from another thing.
You have another source.
So, you know, I'm looking to this and this and this, and everything is looking from the nature. You know? So everyone need to bow down at the end to the higher source. You know, I think that's what's going to
So
happen.
in some sort of way, I think individual expression is also an illusion, like you said, because it's always a connection with everything.
So that, but then when you talked about the originality of the idea, so when is something original when it's not a copy?
Yeah, it's not
coming,
yours
it's not
anyway,
influenced.
man.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I feel. It's
I-
not yours anyway. I'm just a messenger. I feel I'm growing to understand that I'm just something like the kraan.
You are the interface.
Yeah, I'm like, if you open me, water will come. But am I the source of water? No,
You're like channeling
I'm
it.
just like a channeling here. I'm just the messenger.
Do you see that also when you use technology, Jeroen, in your case, as a
But also very literally, like all of my projects are, of course, because it's a very knowledge-based often also. In some sort of way, has very little to do with me. It's always done with the team. It's always done with computer code. That's also, I'm able to do that based on the work of others. It's a combinations of existing things, etc.
So more like a synthesis, you could say.
Exactly.
Look, I don't know much about art history.
Don't know much about history.
Me neither.
Don't know much about history.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But
But I do know that I know you.
what I'm really, really curious, as in, because we're talking about nature, no? And nature, life, for me, I always put the term complexity to it. And what I mean by complexity is there are so many factors playing that we cannot comprehend it with our cognition, right? So sometimes you have a gut feeling. You have a feeling, okay, I'm not feeling okay here, these people are weird. But that's from when you're born until now, your intuition has been absorbing a lot of things. How do you go about, as an artist, how do you go about balancing complexity and what you can actually do conceptually, but also with your skill set.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I think it's a good question, man. And I mean, in my reality, the process don't stop, because that's one of the things that make the creation interesting. But for me, I find myself every time in the position that you need to try to simplify and give it a way that you don't know, like that even whatever you make is okay, because it's too complex. Like, I mean, if you keep on thinking about all the significance it might be,
yeah,
then you're killing yourself, you know. That's why things like Mondrian, the simplicity of things like the cubes and so, they go very far in how can you simplify things.
yeah.
Then, because, for example, the mural outside, I made it. This is a good example of this. I made it like in 2017, and like 1 year ago, I renew it. So I was telling myself that the 2017 version of me don't know what I know now. So look at what I'm going to do. But the 2017 version of me made that in about maybe weeks, a month. But the version of now took like 3 months to make the same thing. And when I look at it now, when it's finished, I have a lot of more respect for the little I knew in 2017, because it was simple, it was clear, and now I know too much, and I want to do too much, and I think I know too much, and that's how it looks also. So I'm confronting myself with also that. So I don't know if I need to be bothering with so much I know, you know. I can just do it like a dance, like just dancing tonight, and this is what the dance, and this is it.
Yeah.
No, the judgments can we do, but accept this shit, you know.
Naivety
So for
can
me,
be
it's
good.
that. For me, it's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it would kill you to try to. It's too much.
Yeah. So.
With technology is there's a bit of a pitfall, no? As in, it's much easier to get strangled in the complexity of things.
Yeah, although you can also use technology, of course, also to do more complex things.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, like complexity maybe you could say even complexity is never good. In the end, it's really about trying to simplify back to something that's really impactful and strong. So like. It's also because I'm in the end like a conceptual artist, so I'm searching for really powerful ideas, and in my experience that is really something which can also be like, okay, you thought about something for like a year or 1.5 years, and thought about it, and then in the end, and then it gets really complex in ideas, and it's far too much, and it's never gonna, it's gonna lead to a bad art project probably, but in the end, you can simplify it back to something, and then you can maybe create it pretty fast. Yeah. It's just like, you know, that idea that you then have like, okay, I spent a year on it, and I walked away from it for a month, and then I'm just coming back to it, and I'm doing it like an instant, like without beyond the rational thought, and your subconsciousness has sort of processed it all, and then you get to something really simple, and that's much more powerful. I mean, that gets an art piece beyond something like, okay, it's a cool art piece, to a concept that can you go on for years, you know.
Would this be like a message you would tell yourself, like your former self, when you're just starting creating art?
Well, I would, but this is also like pretty much like you said, you know, you still have, if you don't know much, you still also have a sort of naivety, and it can be really good. So my suggestion would be, if you step into art, just start doing it also.
Yeah, and I think there is a development that happens in when you know, because it's not that you don't need to know, it's like the more you know, you need to become more humble in what you know.
the more you know, the more you know you
That
don't
you
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
Socrates,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's quoted for it.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows if he really lives. But, so yeah, I mean, what you mentioned, if I can put it on the table also, I think it's about the idea, an idee. So something. So philosophy is also about the idea. It's not about a theory. It's about the idea and
What's the difference?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Theory might be something that you come up with, like a hypothesis, and it might turn out not to be true. With an idea, you don't know. But yeah, it's a very good question. Let's say the idea of building something. I also was playing with what you were saying, like for years you are working with something is bugging you and you don't know. Let's say the stelling van Pythagoras. Everybody knows the stelling van
Yeah.
Pythagoras. So it's the triangle, right? So the A, the B, and the C. So A square plus B square is C square. That's like that's the mathematics. But you also touch music. So who was Pythagoras, for instance? There was somebody that was traveling to Egypt. So when there saw the whatever the construction, but also learned about the mathematical equations behind it. But also was a person that saw the theory of not the theory, that there was a connection between music and numbers also. So when I translate the idea, that's what I have in my head. I don't use tools to express it, but I would take the same triangle, I would put some music on, and then I would see how the triangle would vibrate. That is bringing kind of two things together, which is actually the same thing, but in another form. Let's put it this way. So that's the idea. Something like the idea is so fundamental that it's like expressing itself in many ways, like in
It's
music,
an
in art, in
interesting
technology,
thing.
in
I'm going to look at it. It's interesting, the difference between the idea and the theory.
I have one last question. I'm gonna bring it back more pragmatic.
Yeah.
yes, please do.
The expression, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Let's take it into the context of art. And you are both professional artists, right? When people want something, they buy it, right? I would feel, so I'm really projecting now. I would feel very anxious every time I make something. Is it going to be to somebody's liking? So it might not be in my power to take it to all the 8 billion people in the world. But do you feel this anxiety, or how do you go about being a professional artist?
Well, that's of course, at least if you're an artist that also has to live from your art, and that's always that's always a challenge, of course. But I think, for me, it's really in finding like where's the touch point. So where is still something which is something which I find interesting in some kind of way, which has a touch point with some audience to some.
Okay.
And sometimes it doesn't. So there have been lots of things that never really got off the ground. But sometimes they do, and that's really interesting. And that's in practice, that's like sometimes you have a concept that is launched, and then it really resonates with audience and with museums, etc., and then that will last for years and years, and we create new versions and
You have a bit of a snowball
extend
effect.
on that. So that's a little bit how I fall through that in practice,
Okay.
and stay alive as an artist.
Yeah. And then for me is like from where I come, I'm coming from the corner of everything as a sort of a meaning. And then if you take like a sentence, and then you have all types of word in a sentence, and then if you need to choose to be one of the type of the words, maybe you're like a the of a hat, and then you would say, why the fuck do I need to be something like that? Why I'm not the word beautiful? you know. And then I teach myself every day again, that it's not about being the word beautiful. It's about the whole sentence thing. So if you happens to be just a letter in a sentence, then do a letter to people who like it, but just be a letter. Just be a good letter, and it will be painful sometimes, but it seems like in the beginning of this conversation we was talking about maybe the nature. It seems like the nature is also talking with us. And in that concept, if you think about in any order of things, like for example your body, you have an asshole and you have an eye, and then it seems like the asshole is a bullshit, you know. But it's not, you know. You have a lot of type of teeth, and then say I'm one of those teeth, then do I need to be a snake tant?
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck with that? And then I think the concept of being happy, and then people are just too much, and the likes, and then what we are talking about in the
social media,
starter, and then you're trying to be likable and in top and things, and forgetting that a building cannot stand strong without a foundation.
Yeah.
And no one's seeing the foundation because it's there.
Yeah.
But okay, what's the fuck is the building without the foundation, you know? So with that concept, I'm just trying to, I make things, and then it's not as easy as I'm speaking it, but I make things, I'm trying to be more pure as possible and accept if people like it or not. And then everyone that I see cry and things, I use that as my source of, that's why I'm making it for. And then, for example, now I'm growing. I don't even understand my clientele, because I'm not making art for so much people to have my art in their place. So a lot of people asking me, what are you doing then? What's the thing? But I'm not in the same frequency of making for the public in that way. I'm making for the public from the meaning of my existence, and I make things, and whatever the things are going to be, if it's for selling or for exposition, and it happens to be that I'm living from it still, without a normal, you know,
because you're a real artist. Can I say it like that? Because you talked about it before, like what's real, what's not real. I think when you're real, it will show, one way or the other. That's also the nature of nature, I would say.
Maybe, I think, yes. I think so. I don't know if I was clear, because I speak a lot. I speak a lot.
It was clear, guys. But for me, it was really, it touched also for me back like totally at the beginning. So if it's not in line with your motivation, your core motivation, which for me is really always about these boundaries, you know, touching on something new. Yeah, if that's not there, then it's not an option. Then you can better go do something else.
Maybe people don't really feel the authenticity. Eh?
And that touches also on authenticity, realness,
or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and then the AI will take over. If the only thing you're doing is making what's beautiful, then you need to be fearing.
Exactly, very true.
A machine will take it over.
Exactly. If it's just about that, AI will take over.
That's the idea. So what the machine cannot capture but still is, that's the idea.
Yeah.
If an artist can express that, this is what I'm hearing, that's the art.
Yeah.
When the machine mimics, it's a copy.
But
no matter how beautiful it is.
I'm very.
But at the same time, things are interacting also.
Yeah,
so
that's why.
So you cannot dismiss the one above.
No.
So
it's like the light and the dark. It's like the trash helps the beauty, the treasures to shine in a way. So keep on imitating, so the original can be seen. You know, like something like that. It's weird, and that's why I think things like and people don't like to say it, but that's why things like the Bible will keep on being so powerful, because what it is like a book of a lot of stories, and the stories has meanings, and it's also like it's a kind of in simplicity, because things are so complex, like you said. But I'm telling you a story about a dragon and a guy who but everyone knows what a dragon is in a way, you know. So I that's why I love stories, because then I make something that's much more difficult to say. I make it a simple thing by giving it in a story, and then
Yeah,
I want to thank you all.
definitely.
Masha Danki.
Yeah. Do any of you have anything else to add?
It was a great
It
conversation.
is a great
It was an
conversation.
interesting conversation,
Who
definitely.
never ends. I mean,
Exactly.
it never ends.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has to be serious. Has to be
Yeah,
serious.
for real.
Well, that was the idea. The idea was we will do a podcast, so we will. But then things connecting the dots, or
Thanks.
things are happening in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Toch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it needs goes.
Thank
Yes.
you all.
All right.